Today we're going to talk about postpartum depression. What is it, who's affected by it, or who's at most at risk, and how it can show up in unexpected ways, like with postpartum rage. This topic doesn't get talked about nearly enough, especially when it comes to mothers who have C-sections or babies in the NICU. So, with all eyes open, all ears open, and with all understanding and grace, let's talk about it. And don't forget to take care of yourself. Be kind to you. Grab your water, grab your snack. Let's dive in. What is postpartum depression? Postpartum depression is a condition which affects 10 to 15% of new mothers, or about 1 out of every 8 women. That's a lot of women. Now, it can occur at any time within the first year after having a baby. So for 365 days, you are at risk. High risk, low risk, or medium risk, it's still a risk. A lot of times you won't know if you have postpartum depression or not. I know I didn't. For the first few weeks, I thought I was doing great after I had my son. But slowly but surely, I realized I really wasn't doing great at all. I was masking my symptoms which included fatigue, insomnia, irritability, and the big one, postpartum rage. Embarrassed to admit it, but yes, postpartum rage. Not directed at my son, but more so at the situations that I was in. I was going through a lot in my relationship, in my life, and just in general, and I was extremely tired and exhausted. I was also mostly doing it on my own, so it was hard. So if you have any of the following symptoms, please don't be afraid to seek help. These symptoms will include feeling sadness, increased or severe anxiety, irritability, fatigue, trouble bonding with your baby, and in severe cases, thoughts of self-harm or harming the baby. Now, I will have full disclosure. For a small, short period of time, there was a moment of feeling self-harm or self-worthlessness, and it was hard, really hard. But I talked to my therapist, I got the help I needed, got on the right medications, and with treatment and time, I got a lot better. You're not alone. Now, let's talk about these treatment options. Talk therapy, like CBT or interpersonal therapy, help. I have a therapist. I talk to her every week, and it helps. I have seen my therapist or a therapist at some point in my life every year since I was 5. And it's always been helpful, but I find it's really helpful during these times, during stressful events or new events, especially like becoming a mom. It's not something that you can really do on your own, and you shouldn't have to. And you should know that there's someone there to talk to. Other options include taking medications. If you have something like bipolar or anxiety or depression already, you're predisposed to suffering from postpartum depression. And you should know that you have options, and these resources and treatments are there to help you. So if you need help, please talk to your doctor, contact them right away. Support groups and self-care are also very helpful. I am actually in a support group that is provided by my hospital. I see Novant health care professionals, and they offer free support groups for postpartum mothers who have postpartum depression, anxiety, or just need support in everyday life during the time after having a baby, especially if it's your first time. So again, if you feel like you're struggling, please don't hesitate to reach out. There are resources, and I will be sharing more of those resources towards the end of this video. So now that we've talked about treatment options and what those look like, we're going to talk about the different risk groups and the risk factors associated with each group. So the first group are people who are less likely to suffer from postpartum depression, or low risk groups. As we talked about before, you are 10 to 15% of women are likely to suffer from postpartum depression, or 1 out of every 8 women. That's still a lot of people, but most of those people are considered low risk people. Of those people, We have medium to high risk, which medium to low risks are anyone who goes through a C-section during delivery. A C-section or a cesarean section procedure is when they cut you open along your waist. They make an incision along your waist. They cut through 7 layers of tissue, muscle, and fat to deliver your child. They remove your uterus, cut it open, take the baby out, remove the placenta, put it back, sew you up, and you're done. Sounds pretty simple. It's not. It's a very, very hard thing to go through. It's a big ordeal, and I had one. It wasn't fun. My C-section experience was not enjoyable. It was scary. I had a really bad reaction to the anesthesia, and that made it 10 times worse. On top of the fact that my baby was Coombs positive, meaning I had a different blood type than he did. So he had higher risk for jaundice, and they had to track his bilirubin levels, and he had low blood sugar levels from birth. So I wasn't able to hold him at first, and I was having such a bad reaction, throwing up, having panic attacks, multiple panic attacks during the entire thing, that I wasn't able to hold him for the first hour. So it was pretty scary. On top of the fact that I had a bleeding disorder I didn't know about. I wasn't aware that I had this bleeding disorder. So I was hemorrhaging blood for hours, and then days after I had a C-section, after I had my son. So yeah, it's pretty traumatizing. It's scary. That risk group is a little bit different. That risk group, mothers who have C-sections are twice as likely to experience postpartum depression. So that brings that number from 10 to 15% to 20 to 30%. So 20 to 30% of women who have C-sections they're twice as likely to have postpartum depression. Doesn't seem like a very big number, but when you take into account that only 1 out of every 8 women is associated with the percentage of women who are at risk for postpartum depression without a C-section, and then you take and double that number, that's a lot of people. 20 to 30% of women who have C-sections are likely to have postpartum depression. That's a lot of people. And that's a lot of babies who have to suffer too. Because I think we forget that while mom is suffering, baby is also suffering. Because mom's not at her best. And I don't think that's fair to mom or baby. Because baby's suffering, yes. But we only know that baby's suffering because all that anybody wants mom to know is baby's suffering. Nobody really cares what's going on with mom. And I'm not saying that nobody's gonna care what's going on with you if you talk about it, but what I am saying is it doesn't help when you're going through something and people are saying, well, think about your baby, get better for your baby, do this for your baby. We have to be kind to ourselves too. You wanna get better for you, not just for the baby, not just for everyone else because everyone else is uncomfortable. Growth is uncomfortable, change is uncomfortable. If it's uncomfortable for everyone else, only just imagine how it's going to feel to us, how it feels to you. Be careful and be kind to yourself. Now, back to C-sections and postpartum depression. The reason that those numbers are higher are for several different factors, including the longer recovery time, loss of birth control, and the physical and emotional challenges that come along with it. Loss of birth control meaning not I lost my birth control, as in I can't take a pill, or I can't get a rod or an IUD. Meaning I lost control of something that was happening to my body for an extended period of time during a very traumatic time in my life. A significant moment in my life I didn't have control over. Most people don't plan to have C-sections. C-sections can happen by emergency or by a last-minute decision. Mine was a last-minute decision because my son did turn himself around, so he was breech positioned last minute at 5 centimeters dilated. It was too dangerous to move him. If we were trying to move him or flip him, then the water could have broken or something could have happened. So he was C-section delivered. This is a last minute decision. So people don't normally try to plan this, but for people who do plan it, I imagine that those experiences are different. But I don't know, because that wasn't my experience. But we're just talking about the factors for those people who, for these people or this group of women, the factors that make postpartum depression more likely to happen for them. Now, there are other factors that could make postpartum depression worse for other women. Women who have babies in the NICU, for example. Babies being in the NICU is a very hard thing to go through because you're separated from your child at the birth of your baby, and that's a time where mom and baby should be together. It's a bonding time. It's very significant that baby bonds with mom as soon as they come out of the womb, and everybody makes it a huge deal that baby bonds with mom, and you hold your baby and don't put your baby down, and make sure your baby can smell you, and do skin to skin, and do all these different things. But what does that mean for the moms who can't do that? What if you can't hold your baby? You give birth to them. Well, that creates a whole host of issues. Increased anxiety. There's medical uncertainty. You're not sure if your baby's going to make it. You're not sure what's going on. You're not always constantly aware of their medical condition or their state, because you have to communicate with doctors, and then there's medications, and then there's different procedures, and there's different things that go on depending on the circumstances. You have the separation from the baby. You're separate from the baby. There's not an immediate chance to bond like there are with women who have a natural birth, or even most women who have a C-section who are able to hold their baby right away. They have a chance to bond with their baby first. And then there's feelings of guilt or helplessness, and that comes from feeling like maybe you did something wrong, or maybe there's something you could have done to avoid it. And let's be honest, there wasn't. There's nothing you could have done to avoid it. There's nothing you could have done differently. And even if you did, we probably would have been in the same place, because God doesn't make mistakes, and this was part of their story. So, and it's part of your story too. It's made to make you stronger, made to make him stronger, and it's going to be a testimony one day. So don't worry, you'll be fine. It's very hard to leave your baby though. When you have to leave the hospital and baby's still there and you have to leave him there, it's a moment where you think to yourself, he's supposed to be coming home with me, or she's supposed to be coming home with me, and it's hard. It's really hard. I fortunately was blessed enough that I got to stay at the hospital with my son while he was in the NICU, and he was returned to my room the day before we got checked out. So that was a blessing, and that eased my anxiety a lot when it came to him being in the hospital, or when it came to him being in the NICU. And I got really lucky, but not all people are. So the postpartum depression percentage for them goes up. That risk is 40 to 60% of NICU moms show postpartum depression symptoms. 40 to 60% within the first year show signs of postpartum depression. That's a lot. That number is a lot higher than 10 to 15 or 20 to 30. So what does that mean? It means that being with your baby, bonding with your baby, and having an experience of being a mother early on has a significant effect on your psyche. It has a significant effect on how you feel about yourself, your baby, the relationship you have with your baby, and how you feel about everything, how you heal. So you have to be kind to yourself, again. So even if you feel like you're not coping as well, or you feel like you're not doing as well, or you feel like you have these different issues, don't be embarrassed. Don't feel bad about it. Don't feel like you can't talk about it. You can talk about it. It is fine. 40 to 60% of NICU moms. That's a lot of moms. You are not alone. You're not the only one feeling this way. I promise you, you're not. Even though my son was only in the NICU for 48 hours, it felt scary. It was really scary. I didn't know what was going on. And I felt like I could have done something differently, or maybe there was something else that could have happened, or maybe there was a way we could have avoided it. And there wasn't. So be kind to yourself. He's perfectly healthy now, and he's fine. We did everything they could. And, I wouldn't have done anything differently.
Sorry about the location change. I got kicked out of the other room by my little brother. So, never mind that. We were talking about different risk factors and different groups of people who are at risk. Now, the last group I wanted to talk about were women who were both C-section moms and NICU moms. Now, combining those things, the rates for the probability of postpartum depression jump to 40 to 70%. So 40 to 70% of moms who have a C-section and a NICU and a baby in the NICU are likely to have postpartum depression. That is an astounding number. That's a lot of people. And with that amount of people, it's shocking to me that we even begin to think to ourselves that we're alone or that there is not someone else who understands what we're going through. And what's even more shocking is that we're not aware of this information when we're going through it. But why? Why is this number so high? Well, this number is so high because the trauma from delivery is overwhelming, as well as emergency situations and anxiety from those things, and then having a lack of bonding with the baby. Bonding with the baby is a very important part of healing. It's a very important part of becoming a mother. So it's when you don't have that opportunity, or when you don't have that for yourself when you give birth, it can create a feeling of anxiety, feeling of helplessness, and it's worrying, and you fill yourself, instead of with the joy and instead of with peace from being able to hold your baby and bond with them, you're filled with anxiety, you're filled with worry, you're filled with guilt, and all of these things manifest themselves through postpartum depression. You have a longer healing time, so a lot of people think that having a C-section is taking the easy way out. It's really not. It's really not, because having a baby in general is hard enough with the 6-week recovery time, because you have a dinner plate size wound in your body. But not only is this wound internal when you have a C-section, you now have an external wound leading to that wound, which increases your risk for infection. You have an increased risk for sepsis. You have an increased risk for bleeding. You can tear your stitches. You can pull muscles. You can damage nerves. Even during the procedure itself, you can have nerve damage. Something can go wrong. Or you can be in a situation like I was, where you hemorrhage a lot of blood. Maybe you don't know you have a bleeding disorder. Maybe you don't know you have certain things medically wrong with you because you don't have an adequate medical history, or you don't know enough. I didn't know enough about my medical history or my family's medical history to be able to think about the fact that I might have a bleeding disorder or something may or may not go wrong. So I had a bad reaction to the anesthesia. I hemorrhaged a lot of blood. I mean, a lot of blood for days after I had my son. I had IV iron infusions in the hospital where I was unable to get out of bed to see him in the NICU. That was stressful. It was traumatizing. The entire experience of having him was traumatizing. So traumatizing, I don't think I'll ever forget a single detail. And I don't think I can ever apologize enough to my husband for vomiting all over him while I was giving birth, which obviously I'm not going to apologize for that. I was going through a very traumatic situation. It was traumatic. I didn't expect to be cut open. I felt more than they thought, more than I was supposed to. I got an epidural, and if you weren't aware, I also would like to go ahead and say that getting an epidural is also not an easy decision. Most women wait till the last minute to get an epidural, but then there are groups of women who like to look at those women and say, oh, you took the easy way out, or oh, you did this and you should feel bad because what it could do to your baby and what it could do to you. The pain from birth, from childbirth, is so great. There is not an accurate study to describe the level of pain or what a woman goes through. There is no accurate description to describe what a woman goes through during childbirth. From a baby, a human being kicking themselves out of your womb, alive, while you're alive, awake, kicking themselves out of your womb through a birth canal, out of a part of your body that has to be ripped open. or the latter. Being cut open, they cut through 7 layers of skin, fat, muscle, and tissue to get to your uterus, and then they removed your uterus. This is an organ, a body organ, a part of yourself that holds your child. They cut it open, remove the child, scrape the placenta out of your uterus, or out of the lining at least, and then place it back in no particular fashion, and sew you back up. And pray for the best. And other than giving you pain meds and tell you to take it easy, which, let's be honest, let's face it, as a new mom, is impossible to do. There's no way to take it completely easy. There's no way to be on bed rest as a new mom. There's no way to do that. Especially when you're going through a stressful situation, like a separation or divorce or anything like that, or you're doing it by yourself, or you don't have enough help, or you're by yourself during the day even. That is impossible to do. There's always something you have to do which requires you to move, or get up, or lift something. So, can we, as a whole, please stop telling moms who have C-sections that they took the easy way out, or women who have epidurals that they did something that could hurt their baby or something like that. It's simply not true. There is no evidence to suggest an epidural harms the baby in any way. None. Absolutely none. Like, at all. I got an epidural, which obviously I did. I had a C-section. But before I found out I was having a C-section, I waited as long as I could to get the epidural. But at some point, you just get the epidural. Because at some point, there's no point in ruining the experience of having a child by going through it with as much pain as possible. They created, this thing was invented for a reason. It was invented for people to not have to suffer through childbirth. Which, even if you get an epidural, still hurts like heck. Just gonna say that. Just gonna put that out there. Okay, because it's also not fun to get an epidural and then you have the tube shoved up you because you have to get a catheter. So, let's just put that out there. It's not easy. No part of childbirth is easy. But as women, we need to stop separating ourselves and putting ourselves in groups of who's better than who and all these different things, because no one is better than anyone. And one thing what I want us to realize, we are all amazing. We bring these tiny humans into this world, and it is amazing. It's an honor to be able to do something like that, and I don't think anybody should take it for granted. So, aside from talking about postpartum depression, which obviously isn't talked about nearly enough, or there wouldn't be so many people who feel like they're alone in the situation, something that's often overlooked is postpartum rage. There's a little bit of a controversy here, and there's a stigma attached to it. People think that you're a bad parent if you have postpartum rage, and people think you don't know how to handle your emotions, and you don't know how to parent your baby, or you can't handle things, or maybe you're an unfit mother. None of these things are true. Postpartum rage is an overlooked part of postpartum depression, and unfortunately, it comes with the territory. A lot of people are afraid or ashamed to admit that they have it. I'll be honest, I was one of those people. I was definitely in denial that I had postpartum rage or that I was struggling at all with the situation, with this syndrome, we'll call it. We'll call it a syndrome. And it was a symptom of the postpartum depression that I was also in denial that I had. And no, it wasn't me being unstable. It wasn't me being angry at my baby. It wasn't me lashing out over little things because I couldn't handle my day-to-day life. That wasn't it at all. It was an overwhelming sense that I was losing control of the very basic things that I take care of on a daily basis. And when you feel like you're losing control of the things that you can control, you literally spiral, I'm going to use this word a lot, out of control. Because rage comes when you have no idea how to react to the feelings that you have, when the rage only comes when you actually are not sure how to express the overwhelming emotions of sadness, loneliness, frustration, or otherwise. So when you feel that, you have to learn to be kind to yourself. And being kind to yourself means also identifying those symptoms and identifying when you need to walk away. A lot of things happen when women have postpartum rage, and you come to regret it or even face legal consequences for it. And while those situations are utterly heartbreaking and they're sad, they can be avoided if you have the right resources and you know what to do. I had to learn to put everything down. If I'm making a bottle, if I'm trying to calm my son, if I'm cleaning something or anything, and when I feel overwhelmed and I feel it bubbling up, to walk away. It is okay to let your baby cry for just a few moments while you gather yourself. It is okay to walk away. It is okay to leave the room. As long as your baby is in a safe space where they can't hurt themselves or help or get hurt or nothing can happen to them, you are okay to walk away. You can take a moment to yourself. Because one thing I'm going to keep saying, and I'm probably going to say it through the entirety of the series, we have to learn to be kind to ourselves. I am still learning to be kind to myself. I'm still learning that I deserve understanding, and I deserve compassion and grace, and how to give myself grace. And it's something that I'm working on in therapy with my therapist. And I think I've been doing a lot better. And also recognizing when I do something right. Recognizing when I have a moment of growth, and recognizing when maybe I could have done something differently. But again, that's growth. Because if it wasn't growth, I wouldn't recognize it. So, let's talk about the signs of postpartum rage and when to walk away, when to take a step back, when to recognize that you need help. Signs are explosive anger, extreme irritability, snapping over even the smallest of things, and feeling completely out of control. One thing you have to tell yourself is, I'm not a bad parent. I just have an issue. I just have a problem. It's not bad parenting. It's just a mental health issue, and it should be treated like postpartum depression or anxiety. If you have these symptoms, or you have anything like this, or you're feeling out of control in your day-to-day life, or you're feeling like you lose control or you lose your patience with your baby, don't feel bad. You know, and I know, it's not directed at the baby. And one thing that I had to keep telling myself was, when I felt this way, or I started to yell, or I started to raise my voice, or I started to feel out of control and panic, is I calm myself, take a deep breath, look at your baby, and say, it is not your fault. It is not your fault. It's not him. It's not her. It's not their fault. And by doing this, you're subconsciously telling your brain, or I was subconsciously telling my mind, don't direct this at him. It's not his fault. It's not his fault. Because over time, if you don't admit these things and you don't say these things out loud and you don't give yourself a break, you can build up resentment towards your child. And you don't want that. It's not good for bonding. It's not good for the relationship. It's not good for parenting. It's not good for anything, because these relationships become solid in their early development. So if early development is building up resentment towards your newborn baby who just got here and doesn't know how to do anything for themselves and depends on you to love them and care for them, you have to figure it out now. Caring for yourself is caring for them. So don't feel selfish for getting yourself help. Okay, so how long does postpartum depression actually last? Well, it can last a few weeks, months, or even years in some cases if it's left untreated. Some women experience symptoms for up to 3 years, which is a long time considering your postpartum healing period is 7 years after you have a child. For 7 years, your body is still trying to recover. You are still trying to figure out who you are and where you belong and what your role is. So for 3 of those 7 years, you are in a state of depression or constant sadness or loneliness and just feeling lost. That's sad. And no one wants to go through that. And you don't have to go through it alone. You don't have to go through it at all. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about it. We're going to start a conversation. Start the conversation. Don't be scared to initiate it. Don't be scared to ask for help. And if you need help, I am going to leave some resources in the description box below, and I'm going to give you some right here. If you're struggling, know you're not alone. There is help available. The National Maternal Mental Health Hotline is always available. They're available 24/7. They're completely free and they're completely confidential. The number is on the screen. 1-833-TLC-MAMA or 1-833-852-6262. 1-833-852-6262. So if you're struggling or you need help, you're not alone. Call the number, ask for help. Talk about it. We'll get through this together. We'll see you next week. If you or someone you know is struggling with postpartum depression, please call the Maternal Mental Health Hotline.